Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we are going to be playing with doing a quote in our books or in our journals. So as you know, those people who followed me for a while, I like writing quotes in my books. And quite often my quotes come from pages that I just want to have a play around with, and I've got a fairly blank page that I want to fill up with something. And this is one of those pages. I had this idea that I really want to play with this really warm color scheme, so I'm using cheddar, sedona, eggplant, and a few of the paler colors, so like apricot and I think possibly some carnation maybe in the background, just to have a bit of a go at having something warm in the background. I got a little bit heavy-handed with the apricot, so I want to rub it away using this ghosting technique. So I still got those warm colors peeking through in the background, and I really sort of liked how it ended up. So it sort of gave me sort of a very sort of Middle Eastern, deserty, sunsetty type feel to it, which I liked. I then decided I wanted to add in some mark making. So I'm using the same colors I used in the background. So I'm using my Stabilo woodies. I've got that beautiful purpley color, a little bit of white, putting in some black with some really fine dots and some more obvious stamping with the crosses here, which are from foam stamps from Scrap FX. So just mixing it up just to give a little bit more balance on the page. I also decided I wanted to put a little bit more white on the page to echo sort of what was happening with those white marks in the background. So just using a little bit of my, I think it's Hero Arts Unicorn Pigment ink. Just be aware if you are using that, it's a fantastic white, but it does take a little while to dry. So if you go in sort of straight away and try and glue something over it, it will smudge. So heat set it or leave it for a little while to dry, or if you really want to have something a little bit more permanent on your page, maybe just use white paint to stamp on with as well. So because I got rid of a lot of that apricot-y colour, because it's a bit heavy-handed with it to begin with, I'm going back in and just with a really thin paintbrush, putting in some mark making with my brush as well, just to sort of go across the page. And one thing you'll notice in my mark making, apart from the fact that I'm putting quite a lot on the page, is that I overlap my marks. So I don't keep them circles in this corner and lines in this corner and crosses in this corner. I do overlap them, and that helps to give a little bit more of an organic feel to your page. So you're not looking for the patterns on the page, but there's so many patterns that your eye sort of roaming around the page. When you've done something like I've done there, it obviously is a background because there's no focal image on it. So your eyes are sort of going, where do I actually concentrate on? So that's where my quote's going to come in, because that's going to be the main focus on the page. But I did want to have something off to the side that would kind of ground my image a little bit. And I've got these transparencies from Dina Wakley. So they're really, really fine line drawings of three faces, and they're kind of connected together. And while they sort of blend into the background, they're not really the focal image. You can still see them on the page when you look up closely. So I'm just using some glue to glue these down. It will dry clear. And one of the things I was always concerned about using transparencies to begin with was I would always see the glue that glued them down. But in actual fact, it really blends in with the background. So it really isn't as noticeable as you think it would be. Just to help pull my faces out a little bit from the background, I am going in with my white Posca paint pen and doing a little line work and colouring in the eyes in particular, so that gives them a little bit of a focal point on the page. I'm also going in where there is some cross-hatching or shadowing on the images themselves, and just putting a little bit of white over the top of it as well, just so again you get the idea there's something there, but you have to look closely to actually see what it is. When I was going through my transparencies, I did come across my box of Tim Holtz goodies. You can see I got them out for the page before with all my little butterflies, and I decided I was going to put a butterfly on one of my figures as the eye. And when I did that, that sort of clarified what I would use as my quote for this page. So as I've said in many videos before, when I look for a quote, I tend to look for keywords in Pinterest. So for this one, off screen on my phone, I'm looking up wing quotes or winged quotes on my search, and I came across this one which I really loved. And it's funny when I come across, you know, it could be sort of a random, I didn't start off thinking I'd write something about wings, but this quote really spoke to me once I found it. So I was really pleased that I came across it and I found it. So it's, until you spread your wings, you'll never know how far you can fly, which is so true. Until you try something new, you don't know what you're capable of. And I certainly experienced that last year and a little bit this year as well, or last year and the year before. It's very hard when it's New Year's. Yes, so this really spoke to me, and I'm so glad to incorporate it onto my page. So as you can see with my paint pen, I've written my quote out to begin with, just with thin lines, and now I'm going back and widening everything just to help it pop out into the page and to fill the space. It also helps, doing that double coat helps to make the quote more opaque on your page and stand out a little bit more. The best way to make your letters stand out is to then put a drop shadow on them as well, because that will really push it out from the background and make it the focal point on your page. So the good thing about doing this is you've already got the quote on your page and you can see how much space you have to fill in. So it looks like you have been very clever with your spacing, when in actual fact you're sort of filling in the spaces afterwards. So it's a little bit of a cheat sheet on how to fit your words on the page. And obviously if you'd rather draw this out with pencil beforehand, go for it. One word of warning when you're heat setting your paint pen, especially if you use transparencies on your page, try not to put the heat on the transparency, because even though that's quite thick transparency from the Dina Wakley, it will still curl with heat. So try and avoid heat directly on the transparencies as much as possible. So you can see what a difference it makes, just putting a really simple thin black line next to all these letters, helping push them out from the background. And certainly in the close-up you can sort of see the difference in the letters as well. It seems a really inconsequential thing to do and time consuming, because you're going over these letters nearly 3 times, but it does make it look finished at the end and make it much more readable in your final spread as well. If you don't want the quote necessarily to be the focus point in your page, you don't have to do this bit, but certainly for a page like this, where I do want the quote to be the focal point, I want to make sure that my letters really work. So in the close-up you can see how well that transparency has blended with the background. You can't see the glue anymore, how that white line work on the transparencies help really push them out from the page, how those black lines, drop shadows on the letters help as well. So I hope you have a go at playing in your journal, maybe writing something that's really meaningful for you in it, and playing around with writing, using your own handwriting in your journals. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye for now.